This week on the Rental Report Review. Rough, tough Chuck Tatum, who battered his way to the top, trampling everything in his path, men, women, and morals. Ace in the Hole, 1951. A darling new film from the director of Diva, Betty Blue, 1986. The man, the legend, the king of rock and roll, Elvis, 2022. Wife to the king, icon to the world, destined for more, Priscilla, 2023. Shit, there's no tagline. When he falls for the beautiful wife of the jailed boss of the Nishida gang, Detective Kuroiwa finds himself on the wrong side of a Yakuza war when his superior favors Nishida's rivals, the Yamashiro gang. Yakuza Graveyard, 1976.
Quiet, everybody! Listen to me! Listen!
How do you follow up Sunset Boulevard? One of the greatest films ever made in the history of cinema. Recognized at its time, a modest box office success, a success nonetheless, a film that truly excoriates the debilitation and exploitation of talent and labor for, by, and with the film industry. Well, I guess you go and crawl into a cave in the middle of Arizona and take on the press. Billy Wilder is absolutely one of my favorite directors. Even writing aside, I'm talking specifically about his directing. He is not only a master of masters in collaborating with his actors to hit exactly the right emotion at the right moment. Narrative depends on who knows what and when. This applies both to the characters and to the audience. This might seem trivial, but this one simple thing is what makes so many films feel completely disjointed and dissatisfying. Twists and turns in the story depend on when the protagonist learns of certain information, feels about it, and then reacts to it. And when you're on stage directing, you can either be aware of that, or in the case of many modern movies, just resort to coverage. Billy Wilder uses the camera and blocking to coherently and artistically and emotionally reveal information at exactly the right moment in exactly the right way. Watch any given shot, how it moves through a space, what it reveals, who's in the frame, who's out of the frame, who's looking where in the frame, how all these cues inform each other and evolve. No one does it better. No one does it better than Billy Wilder. I give Ace in the Hole 4.5 stars. It is an incredible examination of the perversions between media and subject. I do think it pulls a couple of punches. Kirk Douglas and his oh-so-beautiful shovel face is acting, prowling every frame. Jan Sterling, oh my god, immediately arresting in her nonchalance. But really, this was a great movie. I could be completely wrong and way off base, but it is interesting that both sex and style have drained out of cinema almost at the same time, almost as if they're intertwined. Because, what is style? A subjective stamp, filter, ego-driven practice to manipulate a narrative, to manipulate characters. It's crass, gauche, self-indulgent. If you're anything like me and think that cinema, for the most part, has been completely vacuumed up by a sexless corporate mono-style of stationary mediums and reserved irony, then I think Betty Blue is a movie for you. This film is not only a rallying cry for style, personal style, for any style at all. If it's not Exhibit A, it's definitely one of the first couple of letters in the case for including sex, personal sex, loving sex, complicated sex in narrative. It is a very deep form of human expression, if not one of the most primal, and to have it completely absent except in the most radical and politicized ways, I don't know, it's no wonder we have difficulty talking to each other. I give Betty Blue 4 stars. I'm very new to Beineix. This is, I think, only the second film of his I've seen after diva, I have a feeling this film will grow on me. But I also don't think it's a film I'm going to watch, maybe more than once or twice a year or something like that, if that. The film feels like a beautifully painful rite of passage, and I think on those terms alone, it succeeds marvelously well. I mean, any movie with a signature drink is a good movie in my book. Like, name one bad one. Just one.
From Baz Luhrmann.
I went in with mixed expectations of this. I have been a fan of Baz Luhrmann for a while. Once I found out it was him bringing Elvis to the screen, I knew there was a chance it could be good and possibly great.
But this ain't no nostalgia show.
And even if it was a failure, I at least hope it would be a spectacular failure. Even though everything's essentially dialed up to 11, this film is first and foremost human, with making Elvis a charismatic, magnetic, talented, soulful, complicated person. And Luhrmann, as much as I assumed he would get all that right, I found myself thinking a lot about what Andrei Tarkovsky calls shot pressure. Maybe not necessarily in the way that Tarkovsky describes this, where each shot has a rhythm, tempo, speed. It also has a spatial component. And when these things work together, just through the imagery alone, inform so much emotionality, combined with the rhythm and musical juxtaposition that he does so well to deliver the audience and characters through the emotional beats of a story. He's one of the best to ever do it.
Dream that you'll do it.
You do?
Yeah.
I give Elvis 4 stars.
Colonel, you put an
I think one of its greatest assets is that it's essentially Amadeus. And boy, could Austin Butler and Tom Hanks be... They are doing two different things in this film. Tom Hanks is acting with a capital A. Butler is absolutely undeniable. There's also a bit of an interesting queer reading of this film, where Elvis himself operates at the periphery between cultures, essentially trying to unite people against the greater forces that would have them not integrate. It's a great movie, but it suffers a little bit from biopic bloat, but thoroughly entertaining.
Hi. What's your name?
Priscilla Beaulieu.
You like Elvis Presley?
Of course. Who doesn't?
Biopics are nearly impossible, and Sofia Coppola managed to make one that feels as intimate and emotional, I guess, as if it was an autobiopic. Not hard to reach for low-hanging fruit, right? I mean, she herself growing up in the shadow of one of cinema's titans, thrust into the spotlight at an early age, having to go through adolescence in public, controlled, managed. How do you grow up like that? Sofia Coppola makes this story not about victimhood. It's empowering.
I don't know if I like it.
What do you mean you won't know if you like it?
I give Priscilla 3.75 stars. If you're a fan of Sofia Coppola, you know what you're getting into. Waves of impressionistic moments strung together in lyrical passages, more than shot sequences, scenes. In Elvis, Priscilla barely rises above narrative device. And here, in Priscilla, Elvis, slightly less dimensional. In neither film did I really buy the bonding, and in this one, it was a bit more important, I think. To me, I don't know. And if you're a fan of how Sofia Coppola marries image and music, you will not be let down by this in the slightest.
I want a life of my own.
Aside from Yakuza films of this era, specifically Fukasaku's, being maybe somewhat of an acquired taste, the aesthetics of this genre came out of a time when, in the local market in Japan, films were just flying through the theaters. A film would usually get maybe a week-long run, if you did well, maybe another week, and the studios were churning them out, literally on a month-long turnaround from writing to screen. So that it provided this fertile ground for experimentation, for developing a language of a genre. And Yakuza films definitely have their own internal language. There's going to be a lot of characters. There's going to be sides. There's going to be very tight, long lens shots that track frenetically, like a sniper trying to line up a shot. There's going to be all sorts of intensity. But beyond that, in The Bones, and here in Yakuza Graveyard, is very often a simple, often emotionally motivated, quasi-mythical character narrative structure. Here we have a man striving to be a good person, to be a good man, to be a good cop, but finds out that everything he believed about all of that is the complete opposite of what he thought it was, and it's broken him, nearly broken him. I give Yakuza Graveyard 3.5 stars. It's a bit much if you're not ready for it. The story is moving and expectedly intense, but the cinematography in this film has some of the most beautiful shots I've ever seen in any film. And there's just so much chaos, controlled chaos, in this film that when it just stops for just a few moments and lingers on some of these shots, your heart just explodes with emotion. Just rent this movie. You know what? You probably can't go wrong with any Japanese film from this. They're going to look amazing. Just rent this movie, if for no other reason, just to remind yourself how totally tame American cinema is. You know, people talk a lot about Kodak film stock, but I'm assuming this was probably Fuji. There is just something about the color tuning in pretty much every Japanese color film I've seen. At least up through the 80s. The cinematographer, Toru Nakajima, worked with Fukasaku a few times, so I'm going to definitely pick those up right away. Thank you so much for watching. You can follow me on Instagram and X to see what movies I'm renting next, and pretty much everything is on my letterbox. I am going to go watch some more movies. I hope you do too. Pretty well.